Usually I try hard to avoid all things Hollywood, but I think what's happening between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni is just wrong. And as a woman and as a journalist, I can't stay silent about it anymore. I have been paying close attention to it. It's hard not to. It's been everywhere. Also because Justin Baldoni's attorney is Brian Friedman. He was my attorney for my fight against Disney and ESPN. So I trust him with my life. I pay very close attention to everything he does and everybody that he chooses to represent. So as a woman, words matter. We have power and we know it. Blake Lively knows that. She's one of the most influential women in the world. And I know this is a strong statement. It's just my opinion, but I feel like Blake is abusing her power. It's so disappointing because it ends up hurting other women. This discredits women who are true victims of harassment. Stand by. I'm going to explain that and back it up in just a second why I think that Blake is abusing her power. Also, as a journalist for the last 30 years, I am disgusted with the New York Times. They have basically thrown journalistic integrity out the window completely. They've been inaccurate with their reporting and they've been incomplete with their reporting. They've literally chosen to omit key evidence from this story. Key facts surrounding Blake's allegations are missing altogether. It's insane. And I'm going to back this up. I have a ton of notes, so bear with me here. But I want to start with the invasion of privacy claim by Blake when it came to her breastfeeding her baby. She said that Justin barged into her trailer without asking while she was nursing her baby. When you look at the texts, though, the texts have now been made public. Blake invited Justin into her trailer so they could continue working while she was pumping and nursing. I remember as a young mother, I was trying to balance feeding my child, breastfeeding while working. You multitask, I get it. The text messages, though, that prove that Blake invited him in, the Times left them out. Justin even said she was breastfeeding in meetings, but the Times didn't include any of this text chain in their article. That is a huge deal. You don't have the full context. You don't have the full texts. It makes you question her credibility, at least me. I question her credibility with all of her claims. Next up, Blake claims that Justin used language that made her uncomfortable. In particular, she used the word sexier that bothered her in relation to her wardrobe. Here's the truth. Blake is the one who initiated the conversation about the wardrobe needing to be, quote, much sexier. That's what was in the text. Justin, he's not just the co-star, he's the director of this film. So he provided creative input while on the set. Isn't that what directors are supposed to do? Provide creative input? That's his job, yes. The Times chose not to include any of those texts, no context whatsoever, despite having, and they wrote it in the article, that they reviewed thousands of pages of text. They left that out. How about the bad press claim that her team in the New York Times mentions is this alleged smear campaign? Think about the timing, guys. The bad press began after old interviews of Blake resurfaced, videos that were not a good look for Blake Lively. They were unflattering, to say the least. Did you see the interview with Kirsty Flaw? She's that Norwegian journalist who the New York Times is now accusing of being part of this alleged smear campaign. Kirsty continues to deny any of that. And she started receiving death threats after the Times refused to issue a retraction to their bad reporting. It's devastating for her. In case you missed it, with that interview, it began the controversy with her interview. Kirsty congratulated Blake on her pregnancy. You got to see it if you missed it. Congratulated her on her little bump, and Blake responded by insulting Kirsty, put it that way. Funny thing is, this interview with Blake took place in 2016, and Kirsty just reposted it back in August. So, the more you dig, the more you realize that Blake has been creating her own bad PR issues on her own for years. So again, please just pay attention to the timing of her claims. If anything, as far as the smear campaign, it feels to me like her team is the one smearing Justin, not the reverse. To make a sexual harassment accusation can ruin somebody's career, and Blake knows that. She knows her power. And she's coming for Justin. She's coming for Jamie Heath, who is the CEO of Wayfarer, the production studio, as well as two members of Justin's PR team. They're coming for Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan. These two women are small business owners. They're really private people. Their careers are being destroyed. And get this, the New York Times actually shared Jennifer and Melissa's personal information. So they have been receiving death threats too, just like Kirsty. I mean, this is insane. And like I said earlier, other women are being hurt because of these claims. Here's a question I think you should consider from a sheer business perspective. How does this benefit Justin Baldoni to smear Blake Lively? This film is his baby, financed in part by his own production studio. It's his first time being a co-star and a director, and he obviously wanted Blake, a superstar, to be happy, to be at her best. It would only hurt his film and his team if he smeared Blake, if he hurt Blake, if any of them did. None of this passes the smell test. As for the New York Times, I was around for the days of the Duke lacrosse story, those false accusations. Personally, I know what it feels like to be misrepresented by the press. It is devastating. And we know for a fact that the New York Times failed to do its job. And even worse, like it took it a step further, manipulated text messages, removed crucial context to this case. And then once they were called out on all of this, they doubled down. I think it's absolutely inexcusable. Through it all, I tried to take a step back and think about Justin and how he chose to handle this whole thing by taking the high road. I admit that I don't know that I could have done it the way that he's done it. In some ways, it was to his detriment during the production of the film, and he just kept taking the high road with her. You got to remember, from the very beginning, Justin Baldoni, he is the one that brought nomore.org onto this production. I mean, it's the foundation, nomore.org, the foundation that fights domestic violence and sexual violence. Justin actually told Sony financed the film along with Wayfair, which is Justin's company. He told Sony that this would be a deal breaker for him, that he wasn't even going to do the film with Sony unless 1% of the proceeds were earmarked specifically for victims of domestic violence. So this film exists because Justin Baldoni wanted to shed light on domestic violence. Please, guys, do your homework on all of this, but do your homework on this man. Track record, his is excellent. That matters. So, as you watch and you listen to all of this stuff, the media spin job, when you see magazines like this one, which talks about Blake taking a stand, don't forget, facts matter. Again, I know journalism is dead, but please, facts matter. Context matters. Even if you're an A-list celebrity, even if you're part of the Hollywood elite, those people aren't used to being held accountable. Personally, I think it's time that we, as consumers, as human beings, hold all of them accountable. Stay tuned because I don't think this thing's going away anytime soon.